Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the program for from PPD Cebu. Work together with Persatuan Pengetua Sekolah Menengah Cebu, PPSMS. The program is towards excellence in SPM 2021. We are Madam Bibiana To. This is my partner, and I'm Madam Sia Li Ling from SMK Tiong Hing. Okay, I will start the first part to introduce to you the paper 2 for session B and C, and my friends, Madam Bibiana To, will continue for the contents of this session B and C for biology paper 2. Okay, this is our format, the new format for KSSM biology for paper 2. So our sessions A actually are 8 questions, structural questions, and these are the marks for each questions, and altogether there are 60 marks. Our session B and C are essay questions. For session B, we have 2 questions, 9 and 10, each one 20 marks, and you only need to answer any one questions, and that is total marks 20. The session C, questions 11, that is compulsory questions, 20 marks, and altogether for our paper 2 are 100. So essay is a very important part because you need to answer 2 questions from these essay questions, and there are 40 marks altogether. Okay, for the informations, the constructs that will be tested in these essay questions will be 6 levels: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and inventing. And each of the constructs will be 3 levels, 3 different levels of difficulty: low, moderate, and high. Here I show you some of the terms or words that may be used in the questions, and they will represent each of the construct. The highlight words like define, label, list, name, relate, identify, match. This only refer to the construct of remembering. When go to more higher construct, classify, describe, discuss, explain. Applying, the terms like apply, choose, illustrate, interpret. Analyzing, you to analyze, compare and construct, or sometimes ask you to differentiate, distinguish. Okay, these all are under analyzing construct. And nowadays, the essay questions will be more in hot questions. So most of the questions may ask you evaluating and inventing, like ask you to predict something and ask you to evaluate from the diagram or from the data, and you give the support on what you have evaluated. For the inventing, there will be the highest level, usually ask you to design or to plan an idea for the knowledge in biology. So these are the 6 constructs will be used in biology paper 2. All right, now we go to section B. Section B refers to the essay, restrict, respond. So there will be question 9 and 10, and you only need to choose one of the questions. Okay, for example, I give you the low level first, understanding questions. Okay, if you look at these questions, the diagram, so ask you to explain what happened to the plants in this condition X. So you looked into the diagram and you try to explain what happened, because the question is very clear to ask you to write some sentence regarding to the process that caused the condition in X. There will be 4 marks. Okay, and then another questions, let's say, explain one way which enable the plants in condition X to be as in the condition Y. How from condition X become Y? Applying questions, 6 marks. For example, the answer that you can give to yourself to make sure that you can score 4 marks. Example, you can name the conditions like this. Because in the questions, they don't mention this condition is the plant's wealth. So you give the name, then you can score a marks. Then you start to write down what caused it, the plant's wealth like this. For some of the example, like the plants now is added with the excessive fertilizer. Or sometimes you can write it is less water in the soil or exposed to the high sunlight intensity. Then they cause the plants wilt. So then after this, you introduce already, right? So actually you score 2 marks already from the questions and you explain. Because this process, the involved process is the osmosis process. So you can write down the usual way you explain. The soil water is hypotonic to the cell sap. Remember, must write cell. The words of cell is important here. Okay, then the water diffuse out of the cell again. Cell must mention there. Okay, the name of the process, osmosis, must be there. And then you describe what happened to the cytoplasm or the vacuole. And then you describe to the plasma membrane. Lastly, you can name the process. The conditions, the plant's web like this is caused by the process of plasmolysis. All right, this, if you go through every point like this, actually you can score more than 4 marks already. So this is the understanding questions. Next question, that's now applying questions, 6 marks, right? How to make the plants in this condition, then they become these conditions. And again, in the questions, they don't mention what happened to the plants. So you can describe. Okay, firstly, you must answer because the question say explain one way. So you have to give the idea how to make it like this. So the best way watering the plant doesn't matter you water with distilled water or what pipe water or pond water or whatever. Then you try to explain the osmosis process that involved here. After you watering the plants, what happened until they can become the conditions in Y here. Okay, so more or less like just now. Hey, again, cell must be there. The words of cell. Every time when you want to discuss about osmosis, please make sure that the cell must be there and the name. More or less like just now one, you describe about the cytoplasm or the vacuole. Then you can mention the conditions of plasma membrane. Then you can name the process that caused the condition X become Y. So this is the deplasmolysis process. And you can describe, okay, here is an important part. If you want to talk about the cell, plant cell, you must use trojet, like this condition, trojet. But the plant itself is stem outright. So the different terms used for different conditions. Like you want to describe the plant cell, please remember to use turgid or flat thing. But when you describe the plants, you can say welt or stem outright. This welt, this stem outright. All right, then you get 10 marks already from the questions. Now show you the second example. From the diagram, you can see there is two tables here. All right, this first table, the purple color one, is referred to the body mass. And another table refer to the blood group. Now, the question says, identify the types. And then second, describe the factors. So remember here, you are needed to give two things in this question. One, identify the type of variation. Then you describe the factor. So like these questions, 10 questions here, no worry. You can give the name of the variation, but please do answer. Now you want to refer to table 9.2, that is the body mass there. You can name, you have to give the table 9.2 is shows about which type of variation. You don't simply just start your blah, 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 blah without any direction, which table you are referring to. So this is important. Must best because there are two tables there. So you have to tell me that which table you are describing now. So you name them first. Then you start to write down the factors. The factors, right? The factors, the common factors like environmental factor or the interaction between the environmental factor and genetic factor. All right, this is the common factor, right? Then you can give some example to describe your environmental factor, like eating habit. The easiest for body mass is eating habit, right? You eat too much, then you become fat. You eat too less, then you become very thin. So mass relevant. Now, so when you want to say you eat excessive of fat, then the result is increase in the body mass. When you say lack of fat, then you can say decrease in the body mass. So the other, like the daily activity, it's also referred to the environmental factor or other like exercise. People doing exercise, usually the body more fit, right? So the body mass always control. Therefore, you describe the example, and then you can also mention if too much, then increase, too less, then decrease, or you have more exercise, then you have decrease in body mass. The relationship between the activities and the body mass you have to mention. So this one refer to continuous variation. Now, so it's about 5 marks already in hand, right? Next, 9.2. Again, you answer. This is referred to discontinuous variation commonly caused by the genetic factor. And what are the genetic factors relevant here? Example like in the exchange of genetic material during the crossing over. So crossing over. So when it is happened, like phase 1, cause the recombination of gene. Or during the metaphase 1, the independence assortment occur. Or during the random fertilization, the sperm fuses with ovule randomly. So, or maybe during the mutations, cause the drastic change in the sequence of the base in the DNA. So these all are referred to the genetic factor. So after you can write each one for table 9.2 and also for table 9.3, then you can score more than 10 marks here. So of course, maximum 10 marks here. Okay, then next example. And this example 3 is analyzing questions. Give you diagram, then you start to make a compare. When you see the words of compare, remember you have to write the similarities and differences. So these are the two methods. For example, give you some answer. You must write at least one of the similarities because the questions is 10 marks. So similarities and differences, there can be 1 plus 9 or 2 plus 8. Okay, but as long as you have one similarities or at least one differences, then you are qualified for 10 marks. Of course, you write the correct similarities and the differences. So the differences, you can make it in table form. Through the experience, I think the table in 2 columns is the best way and easiest way to compare. So when you want to compare the differences, you have, usually they are in opposite way. So like this one, firstly, you give the name of this immunity, right? Natural passive immunity. And the other one should not be the same answer. Okay, so if both of them are the same answer, they are not differences. They actually are the similarities. So like example here, the method one is last for short period. And of course, the other one is the opposite for this sentence, last for longer period. So if you make the table like this, they will be easy for you to continue to write for the method 1 and compare to the method 2. Like this one, instant immunity, or in method 2, take times to get the immunity because it is the vaccination. Vaccinations need take times to get the immunity. But when the mother breastfeeding the baby, then the baby get the instant immunity. Okay, the other example like this. So always compare, must match to each other. You don't simply, this one you write natural passive immunity, but this one you write very expensive. They need to be matched. Match for each compare, each difference. So this is the importance clue for you score marks in this type of question. Compare. Example 4, you can read the questions there. Okay, they actually give you one graph. Okay, in the graph, they ask you to explain what happened to the red blood cell at R and S. So that's only 2 things you need to write, R and S. So what you need to write for this type of questions? First, you must explain separately at R and at S. So you don't match together all the sentences. So you can describe what happened at R and you write another paragraph for S. Usually to do in this way, easy for you to continue writing and easy for the examiner to mark your point. Okay, for this type of graph, usually you need to get the reading from the graph. So like you get the reading of the concentration. You check the reading for the percentage of hemolysis red blood cell. Now you try to compare the solution with the red blood cell itself. Okay, let's say the concentration blah 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 is which type of solution if compared to the red blood cell. Then you can mention the directions of the water molecule movement. The water molecule should be moved in or out. But remember just now I give you the clue, cell, C-E-L-L must be there. The words of cell must be there. And you can name the movement process of water molecule. So that is very easy by osmosis. And lastly, you can describe the conditions of red blood cell after the movement. So it means if water diffuse in or diffuse out, then you can describe the conditions of this red blood cell. So if you can write each one here for R and for S, you can score more than 10 marks already. I show you the example of the answer. You can have a look here. Okay, et al. What you need to write for the answer, like the clue that I give to you. Firstly, go and find the concentrations at the point out. You check the concentration from the graph. Then there is 0% of the sodium chloride. And you check at that place, out here, how many percent of the red blood cell is hemolyzed. So that is 100%. And then you try to compare. This 0% sodium chloride actually is hypotonic, or isotonic to the red blood cell. So in this case, that is hypotonic. Next, you write down the directions of this water molecule. So usually only have 3 answers: diffuse into, diffuse out, or they diffuse in and out at the same rate. So in this case, diffuse in. Don't forget just now I mentioned you must write down the cell here. Without the cell, these marks I cannot give to you. And you write down the process. There's only one answer: osmosis. Then after that, you write down the conditions of red blood cell after the water molecules diffuse into the cell, swell, and finally burst. Why the red blood cell burst? Because no cell wall. Then the plasma membrane only can extend the hydrostatic pressure, but if it is too high, they cannot withstand with the pressure. So hydrostatic are because the water diffuse in. Then the plasma membrane cannot withstand. Therefore, they burst finally. Same at the S, doing the same things. So you check the graph, looking for the concentration, looking for the how many percent of the red blood cell is hemolyzed. And then you try to write down the solution's name, and you try to write down the rate of water molecule diffusions in or out, or at the same rate, only 3 answers. Or in this case, because diffuse in and out at the same rate, then we can say that no net movement of water molecule. Of course, don't forget the name by osmosis and describe what happened to the cell. The cell maintains its shape. So very easy to get to score the marks. You read from the graph and you try to explain what caused the graph like that pattern. So this is the questions of analyzing. Okay, I hope you can get some idea for the section B. Section B, 2 questions, choose 1. So 20 marks. Okay, now we go into section C. It's open response. This one is higher level. For example, applying questions. Okay, they give you one statement like this. Okay, they show you a diagram like this. Actually, they want to say that World Environment Day and how to make our world more green environment. So in the questions, they give you idea already. They suggest the 3R program. Then they need to apply this 3R in school. Look at the questions are in school, not in community, in school. So you must write something regarding to 3R in your school. And the purpose of this 3R is to create a green environment. All right, so do you have some idea on it? So you just think about what are the 3R's program in your school. Okay, for example, firstly, you have to know what is 3R. So this 3R related to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So actually you can give some of the explanation on the words. Reduce is what? What means by reduce? What means by reuse in this concept? What means by recycle? So you can define the meanings. Next, now try to suggest activities that under each of the R. So actually we have 3, right? So each one, if you can suggest 2 or 3 activities, so you can score more than 10 marks already. For example, reduce. In school, you can practice less paper use in school. Like now, most of the time, the teachers do not print out the questions, right? The module for you. They usually send through the soft copy to you. Then we save less paper use. Or try to communicate through the phone. Less paper used in this case. Or you bring your own spoon, fork to school when you want to get the foods from the canteen. Okay, then you try to do something in school to save to reduce the electricity in your school. Okay, or the use of the water in your school. Next, reuse. Reuse means that you still can use until that material cannot be used. Like paper, sometimes we only print one side, right? So at the back there, at the back there is a blank side, right? You can do others, like you drawing or you draft some mathematic questions. So these all are the concept of reuse. So you can write in your answer. Like some of the example, like donate the unwanted stuff. You don't throw things. You can donate, and maybe other people can reuse that stuff. Or you in the school you can use the rechargeable battery. Then suggest some program in reuse the plastic. So usually for decoration, they can reuse the bottle, the plastic bottle for the decoration, or others reuse it for the purpose, okay, or the glass bottle. And next one, recycle. So recycle usually relevant to recycle bin. Or you can say you support the program of this recycle by purchase the recycled material, like toilet paper. Okay, school try to buy the recycled material, the tissue paper that made by recycled tissue paper, or from the newspaper. And now in your syllabus, right? Eco enzyme. This is the one very good green program, can be practiced in your school, or some of the school they have this asrama, they got Dewan Makan. So they can collect all the food waste for food waste from the kitchen, then to produce the natural fertilizer. Or in the recycle, you can educate other people how to do the compost or do the recycle. So these all are the program or activities that can be carried out in your school. Or you can write very common one, like campaign, like awareness activities, and keep the parents informed for our 3 hours event. Here, involvement of the parents is important. Okay, then you can promote the advantage to practice the 3 hours in the school, so that an eco-friendly environment can be created. So you don't repeat the same questions. Questions saying that green environment. So here, change to eco-friendly. Then you can score other marks, as long as you don't copy the terms used in the question. So section C, sometimes we are blur about the directions of writing. We don't know what should we write. But when you clear about the questions or the needs of the or asked in the questions, then you have one thing followed by others, then you may score better marks. Okay, next, give you the second example. So the example 2, they give you diagram. This so give you diagram, ask you to do some things analyzing. So here give you diagrams spraying the fertilizer, another time, another diagram sparing the insecticide. So then the question is very clear, good and bad effects. So you know what you should write, good and bad. But on what aspect? So here they say impact to agriculture and environment. So they give you very clear guideline where you should write. So here 10 marks. So you can write the good and bad impact. So in the questions, sparing the fertilizer, what are the goods? So of course they can increase the nutrients to the soil and then increase the crop yield. The bad one, so we can write about the washed away by the rainwater, the excessive fertilizer. Then when people mention this one, we know that we can talking about the eutrophication and blah, 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 blah. These all are the bad impact. As long as you mention here, excessive fertilizer washed away by the rainwater. Okay, this is the fertilizer. Now we are talking about the insecticide. Is there any good impact? Of course, yes. So they will kill the insect. When kill the insect, then less cost will be used to buy the insecticide. Okay, then, and this insecticide only target on certain specific population. They are toxic. So we not worry the insecticide. Okay, we can spray the insecticide, then some of the pests or insect can be killed, then they are no longer harmful to the crop. Then we can make money when the crop can grow very well. Now go to the bad impact. So bad impact here, they can be talking about this farmer because farmer is one of the environment, one of the aspect in environment itself. The healthy of farmers itself can be right. So sometimes they can cause allergy, eye irritation, cancer, infertility, whatever that relevant, but you don't too common. They will affect the health of farmer. Okay, they are too common. You try to say effect only, but is that a good effect or bad effect? You have to mention. Don't just simply write down effect, AFFECT. Effect very common. They can be good, they can be bad. So be careful with the words of effect. Now, when they go into the groundwater, they can cause the water pollution, cause the death of this aquatic organism, and of course, they will disrupt the food chain. And like the pest, when you too often spray the insecticide, then the pest or the insect may be resistant to the chemical. Then no longer effect for the pests. So that are the bad effect, impact to the agriculture and environment. So you try to find out the need of the questions, then you may very easy to know what you must write in the questions. Then I give you the next example. Okay, burger, chicken burger, vegetable burger, then write down the contents of protein, carbohydrate, fat, sodium, fiber, and give you all the reading here. What you need to write, this is a questions of evaluating. So because the question says, suggest the best burger. So it means between these two, you must choose one. And then, remember, this burger is for 16 years old students, like you people. You are 17 now, right? Okay, then you just assume these students eating, let's say you choose chicken burger, eat chicken burger every day for very long period of time. Then what are the good and bad effects of this diet? So the question says health. So you can talk about the health. So like these questions, you must make the decisions first. Evaluating, you must make the decisions first. Which burger you want to choose, chicken or vegetable. So whatever that you choose, as long as you can give the reason of good and bad, they are the answer. So this is assumed as hot questions. No worry about which burger you choose. As long as you can support your choice by writing the good and bad effect. For example, the burger here, the burger that you choose, you have to look into the 5 aspects here. They are in the table, right? The table in the questions. Okay, you just mentioned whether sufficient of protein or carbohydrate or fat, you just analyze like this. Is it too much or is it too less? So each aspect you have to write down. And then you explain on each nutrients. For protein, let's say you say it is sufficient. Okay, if you write sufficient here, sufficient protein, let's say you say chicken burger, they have sufficient protein, let's say, then you can write the protein is for what? So of course, they can promote the growth of these 16 years old students. So if you write the chicken burger have more fat, then you have to write, if you want to talk about the more, you need to write down the consequences if these students eat too much of fat or too many of fat. Or if your comments for the burger is less, let's say less fiber, then you have to write down the consequences if this burger contains too less of fiber. So this type of questions, very easy to write as long as you just describe the food classes, then make decisions, it is sufficient or more or less. Then if you mention it is sufficient, you write down the function of that nutrients. If you want to, your comment is too much of that nutrients, now you just write down. So of course, obesity, diabetes mellitus, blah, blah, blah. So if too less, like fiber, you have this constipation. So very easy to write this type of questions. And I hope you know the way where you start, where you want to write. For example 3. Now, you must remember to make the choice. If you don't choose any burger, you just blah, 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 chicken burger like this, vegetable burger like this. And lastly, examiner don't know which is your burger, that the best burger for you. Then they only give you maximum 3 marks for any 3 good effects from any 3 classes of food. So that is very dangerous if you don't make the decision first before you continue to write or continue to explain. So remember, read the questions carefully and then make the decisions, answer the first part first, and then continue to describe or explain. Right. Question 4. Inventing, meaning that you are now more higher level. So example, give you the conditions like this. it is a hill, right? Bukit Au, okay? And then they try to build hospital here, and then the quarters, the hospital staff quarters here. And before this, we have school at the lower part of the hill and some houses. Okay, then they try to propose this is the project site. They hope to get the view like this after the project. Then the developer lists down all the following steps to ensure the safety. They say, oh, if I do this and this, then I hope my project can be approved. So they said that they will build the barrier to prevent the landslide and build a drainage system. They mentioned already here, but they are rejected. They want them to submit a new proposal. That's why this is inventing. You plan a new things, but basically don't run too far from this. So here, they ask you to give additional safety step. You no need to write the new one, but from the diagram, from the steps previously steps that they propose, from there, you get the idea how to make it more safety. So suggest and explain. So you have to give suggestions. So I guide you how to write this type of questions to build the hospital and the quarters. So firstly, you can mention, don't build the hospital at the top of the hill, but you try to build away from the hillside, and you give reason. Of course, there will be avoid the landslide. Like road, if you have hospital, of course you need a road to go to hospital, right? So the road can be built according to the earth quantum. It means they like conting, right? So why? Just give the reason why you make like this. Okay, staff quarters. So you don't make at the hill, but you transfer to the foothill and give reason. And all of the project side, you try to plant more trees, and you try to write some things regarding to why need more tree here. Next, you don't mention about the questions. In the questions just now, right? They say they build the barrier to prevent landslide and drainage system. You don't mention it again because it's already in the questions. But just now, I tell you already, right? You can change a bit. You jury the idea, but you change a bit to become your own idea. Like drainage, you put down effective drainage. Example, along the road drains the water flow from the top of the hill to prevent the fast flow of water when raining. Effective. This already different from the questions. Now you are able to score 1 marks from here. Suggestions here. Or barrier here, right? Of course, we need barrier. And you add in strong or firm barrier. Still the same things, but don't write landslide. Change to soil erosion. So by change the words used in the questions, they will become your own idea. So that is some idea how you can answer the section C part. My part and until this slide. So I hope you can get some idea about how to read questions, how to give yourself a way, follow the sequence according to the need of the questions. You can have a guideline how to answer essay questions in both section B and section C. Now, I pass the mic to my friends there, Madam Bibiana.
So let's look at some of the topic. Let's look at some of the topics in paper 2. In my part, I'm going to go through some of the topic in biology, Form 4 and Form 5, and then we go through some example of the question, and then how are we going to answer the question. So normally, the question has 4 parts. That is stimulus, task, instruction, and scope. So what is stimulus? Stimulus are mainly the specific information that can be found in the question. So it can be in the form of diagram, statement, graph, table, and etc. And then for the task, that is a question, that is the stem. Okay, the question. So just now, Madam Sel already teach us how to study the question. And then from the question, we can find the keywords and the instruction guide. And then the most important is the mark allocation. So you should answer by referring to the mark allocation. Of course, if the mark is higher, then you should write more. Okay. So now we look at this question. I'll give you one example of the question. So glucose is oxidized during respiration. Explain the process. Glucose is oxidized during respiration. So this is a statement. The stimulus is a statement. It is just a very simple statement. But in this simple statement, you need to identify what type of respiration. What type of cellular respiration is this? Okay, so what you can do is you try to find out any clue from the question that can help you to answer. So glucose is oxidized. Oxidized means what? Means it involves the uses of oxygen. So which cellular respiration need oxygen? So you should roughly get an idea on what to be written in this process, right? Okay, so in the cellular respiration, it can be divided into two, okay, which is either it involves oxygen or it happens in no oxygen or very, very low level of oxygen. So, like the question say, the glucose is oxidized, so it must be the aerobic respiration. Okay, it must be aerobic respiration. So how to explain the aerobic respiration? So what is aerobic respiration? Aerobic respiration is a complete breakdown of glucose in the presence of oxygen to produce chemical energy. So oxygen is used to oxidize, again, you see, oxidize the glucose to produce what? To produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. So this is how the aerobic respiration occurs. So in aerobic respiration, it requires continuous supply of energy. So, and then it involves the complete breakdown of glucose. So this is the idea that you should have when you want to write the answer about the aerobic respiration, right? So what happens is the glucose is broken down into pyruvate in cytoplasm by glycolysis. So you learn about glycolysis. Glycolysis happens where? In the cytoplasm. And then in cytoplasm, during the glycolysis, the glucose is broken down and then two molecules of ATP are produced. And then the two pyruvate that produced in the glycolysis will enter mitochondria if there is continuous supply of oxygen. So in the mitochondria, a series of reactions will occur. Okay, and then what is the product? The product are ATP, carbon dioxide, and water. So that is the whole process about the aerobic respiration. So these are the answer. So we talk about aerobic respiration. So you see, glucose is completely broken down. So that's mean you already study about this. It is all in the book. And then the process begin with glycolysis, or the breakdown of glucose by enzyme, and then produce two pyruvate molecule. And this process occur in cytoplasm. And then in the presence of oxygen, the pyruvate is oxidized through a series of reactions. And what is being produced? Carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Then you give a equation that involved in the aerobic respiration. Okay, and this a series of reaction that produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy is occur in mitochondria. So aerobic respiration occur both in cytoplasm and mitochondria. You see, they are 9 points. So if you can explain about the aerobic respiration, you can get maximum 4 marks. Okay, now we look at question 2. So this diagram shows the respiratory system of two organisms, which is X and Y. So look at the diagram. This diagram is stimulus, right? So the diagram show you two organisms. Okay, but look at the organism, you should know what is that. And then what type of respiratory system is that? So this is insect, this is frog. Okay, then the question asks you to compare and contrast. Just now, Madam Sia show us the technique to answer the question of compare and contrast. So when you answer the compare and contrast, you should have similarity and differences. And compare and contrast what? The question is not ask you to compare and contrast the respiratory system, but asking you to compare and contrast the breathing mechanism. So how to answer this question? Maybe you have briefly have the idea about the breathing mechanism of grasshopper and the breathing mechanism of frog. Now, how are you going to find the similarity and differences? Okay, what you can do is you can try to recall the breathing mechanism of insect and frog. Then you can write down. Okay, write down what are the process that happen during inhalation and exhalation. So when you list down like this, actually you can match. Okay, the first point about similarity is this. Both. So the insect and the frog both carry out inhalation. So this is the similarity, right? Okay, so then we find out the differences. So in the process of inhalation process in the insect is spiracle open, abdominal muscle relax, so volume in the abdomen increase, air pressure in the trachea decrease, so air enters spiracle. Then air will pass through from the spiracle, air pass through trachea and tracheal. And then finally, the gases exchange occur between tracheal and the body cell. So this is the breathing mechanism of insect. And how about the inhalation in the frog? So in the frog, okay, it begin with the nostril open. Then the flow of the buccopharyngeal cavity lower, or the flow of the mouth is lower. So the volume in the mouth cavity increase. Then air pressure in the mouth cavity decrease. So air enter through nostril. Okay, then from the nostril, air will be after the air enter nostril, the air is in the mouth, right? Now, okay, how to force the air into lungs? So the glottis open. Okay, then the nostril close. The flow of the buccopharyngeal cavity is raised. Then air enter the lungs. So the gases exchange occur between the alveoli and the blood capillary. So now we look at, you see, what we can see is the similarity is both carry out inhalation and exhalation. So this is the similarity. So what you can see is from our explanation here. So what you can see is the changes in the volume and the air pressure will cause the air to move in and out. Okay, so what you can see is when the volume in the cavity increase, the pressure in the cavity decrease, the air will move in. Right. So this is the similarity. So now we look at the differences. So the differences is, you see, the spherical open, it can be matched with the nostril open. This is one difference. Can you see this? Okay. And then the abdominal muscle relax. So that is the abdominal muscle relax is actually to change the volume and the pressure in the abdomen or in the trachea. So, but for the frog is the flow of buccal pharyngeal cavity lower. Okay, so that's means this is another point that you can make. So then, this is what happened during inhalation, right? So then the volume and the pressure. So during inhalation, the volume in abdomen increase, but for the frog is the volume in the mouth cavity increase. Then the pressure in the trachea decrease, then the trachea and the mouth cavity decrease. So you can match like this. You can match. Okay, so this is not a table. So what I mean is you just write down the point, how the inhalation and exhalation occur, and then you match it and make it into a table, or you can use it to write in sentence. Okay, you see that air enter through spiracle, air enter through nostril. See, these are all the differences that you can match. Okay, you see that air pass through trachea and tracheal. So from here, air will pass through the mouth and then into the lungs. This will be another difference. Okay, so and then the gases exchange occur. Yes, so that's why we have another similarity is gases exchange occur between the respiratory surface, okay, and the body cell. Okay, so and the blood capillary. So that is the way that then what you can see is the differences is the gases exchange occur is at the tracheal, and then these gases exchange occur between the alveoli and the blood capillary. So when you list down like this, then you go and find the similarity and the differences will be easier. So same as exhalation. Same as exhalation. So during exhalation, for the frog, the lungs contract, but for the insect is the abdominal muscle contract. Okay, then the volume decrease, air pressure increase, so air move out through spiracle. But for the frog, is air move out through nostril. Okay, so can you, if you think that it is very difficult, never mind, you put down the point and then you go and find out the similarity and differences. So from what we have go through just now, then you can see the similarity as some of the point already mentioned. So the organism undergo both organism means what? Means the insect and the frog. Both undergo inhalation and exhalation. Then both are able to change the volume and both are able to change the air pressure in the respiratory organ. And then about the surface, both have a thin, moist respiratory surface. Both allow the gases exchange occur through the respiratory surface. Okay, remember we don't use CSA to V ratio. This is not accepted. So we can only say that it have a very large total surface area, but not total surface area over volume ratio, because we are not talking about the size. Okay, so the gases exchange can occur very fast at the respiratory surface is because of it have the very large total surface area, not total surface area over volume ratio. Okay, so this will be the differences. So the process, the respiratory organ is trachea system for insects and lungs for frog. So as I say, what you can see is the abdominal muscle relax. We can match with the buccal pharyngeal flow is lower. Spiracle open, we can match with the nostril open. Okay, and then the volume of the abdomen increase, we can match with the volume of the buccal pharyngeal cavity increase. Can you see that? Okay, so air pressure in the abdomen decrease, we can match with the air pressure in the buccal cavity decrease. So the air enters spiracle, air enter nostril. So air pass through the trachea and then into tracheal, air enter from the mouth into the lungs. Okay, and then the gases exchange occur between the tracheal and the body cell. Gases exchange occur between the alveoli or the skin and the blood capillary, or between the body tissue and the blood capillary. So it is not difficult, right? The why the student cannot score well is instead of compare the breathing mechanism, they compare the respiratory system. So read the question properly. So if the question asks you to compare the breathing mechanism, you need to compare the breathing mechanism. Okay, so now this is another question that is not very common. Okay, so the transmission of impulse across synapse is very common, but when the question is about the how the injection of the drug, how a drug can affect the transmission of impulse across synapse, then it might be need your knowledge to relate it to the transmission of impulse across synapse. But you cannot just simply explain the transmission of impulse across synapse without mention the drug. Now the question is asking about the effect of drug that that disturb the transmission of impulse, that decrease the pain. So the question is about decrease the pain. How it decrease the pain by the patient. Okay, now you look at this. So actually, what I want to bring you is you can actually get a lot of information from the diagram. Okay, so in this, so when the electrical impulse reach the synaptic vesicle, reach the synaptic node, this is synaptic node, right? Okay, and then these are the drug. These are the drug, right? These are the drug. Okay, this is the synaptic vesicle. So inside the synaptic vesicle, it contains neurotransmitter, right? It contains neurotransmitter. So this neurotransmitter will transmit the electrical signal into chemical signal, and then it will pass through the synaptic cleft or synapse. Okay, so now we look at the diagram here. What can you see is the drug, it may bind with the drug, can you see, look at here. So this drug can bind with the neurotransmitter. When the drug bind with the neurotransmitter, so neurotransmitter cannot bind with receptor. Okay, because it does not fit to the receptor, to the binding site of receptor. This is number one. Okay, number two is okay, so another one is the drug can bind to the receptor. So when the drug bind to the receptor, then the neurotransmitter cannot bind to the receptor. So when this happens, less impulse will be transmitted across synapse. So it will reduce the impulse, the impulse that carry the pain to the brain. So then the patient will decrease the pain felt by the patient. Okay, so we go to this is the normal one. That is when the electrical impulse reach the synaptic node. So it will trigger the synaptic vesicle to release neurotransmitter, okay, into the synaptic cleft or into the synapse. Synaptic vesicle will move toward the presynaptic membrane, and then it will release the neurotransmitter. So then the neurotransmitter will bind with the receptor, which is located at the postsynaptic membrane, and then new electrical impulse is generated. So this is the transmission of impulse. Now we look at how the drug can affect the transmission of impulse. So we have this idea first. Later we go back to the question. So some drug, it can increase the activity of neurotransmitter, and some drug, it can decrease the activity of neurotransmitter. As I say, okay, so the drug can either block, it can block It can block the enzyme, the synthetic enzyme for neurotransmitter. So when the drug block the synthetic enzyme for the neurotransmitter, then it will cause the amount of neurotransmitter that are available for release become lower. So that means less neurotransmitter will be released. This is number one, because the drug block the synthetic enzyme for neurotransmitter. Number two, okay, so actually this repeat the point. So when the drug block the synthetic enzyme for neurotransmitter, then less neurotransmitter will be released. Okay, then number three, the drug will prevent the neurotransmitter from binding to the receptor. So the drug will bind to the neurotransmitter. When drug bind to the neurotransmitter cannot bind to the receptor. Okay, then the fourth one is the drug at the fourth transmitter, means it acts as the fourth neurotransmitter. So it binds with the receptor. So the neurotransmitter cannot bind to the receptor. Just now is the how the drug decrease the neurotransmitter activity. So now we look at how the drug increase the neurotransmitter activity. Okay, so that is opposite. So the drug may stimulate the synthetic enzyme. So it will cause more neurotransmitter to be released. This is number one. Okay, so when there's more neurotransmitter to be released, then there will be more neurotransmitter in the synapse. So then it will cause the prolonged action of the neurotransmitter. So neurotransmitter, it will cause the generation of electrical impulse more frequent. So this is increase the neurotransmitter activity. Okay, and then actually after the neurotransmitter is released to the synapse, it will be returned back. It will return back to the presynaptic membrane. Okay, but some of the drug will block the reuptake of the neurotransmitter back to the presynaptic neuron. So this will cause the neurotransmitter to bind with the receptor, okay, in a longer period. So this will increase the activity of the neurotransmitter. So, but our question is not talking about the increase in the neurotransmitter activity, but it talks about how it blocks the pain signal. So now we go back to the question. So injection of depressant. So how to block the pain signal? You can use the injection of depressant of the pain or painkiller. Okay, so what happened is it will cause the less neurotransmitter released to the synaptic cleft, and then less neurotransmitter will be diffused. Okay, one is released, one is diffused. So after the neurotransmitter is released to the synaptic cleft, and then it will diffuse, right? So if less neurotransmitter is released to the synaptic cleft, then less neurotransmitter will diffuse across the synaptic cleft, and then less neurotransmitter can bind with the receptor. So this is number 8. Okay, another one is the drug will bind to the receptor, or drug will bind to the neurotransmitter. So all this will cause less neurotransmitter bind with to the receptor. Okay, so then less impulse will be triggered at the dendrite of the next neuron. Okay, so then the less nerve impulse will be sent to the brain. So this will block the pain signal. Okay, can you get it? So what I want to bring out is actually you can, if you really study the diagram properly, you can get the idea of answering the question. Okay, although the question seems very new to you because you didn't study about this, you only study the transmission of impulse across synapse. But actually the diagram gives you some clue. Okay, so now this is another question which maybe you when you look at this you will feel that look like very difficult to answer. But again, I would like to tell you that you can get a lot of answer inside the diagram. Okay, the diagram shows the schematic diagram of spermatogenesis and oogenesis in human. So now you compare. When it comes to compare, you need to find out the similarity and differences, right? Okay, so maybe we go to a little bit about the concept first. Okay, so Actually, the question talk about spermatogenesis and oogenesis, right? So what is spermatogenesis? Is the formation of sperm. And then it occur, where is it occur? It occur in the seminiferous tubule of testes. So if you cannot remember the seminiferous tubule, never mind, as long as you know that the spermatogenesis occur in testes. And then this shows how the spermatogenesis occur. So the primordial germ cell divide by mitosis to produce spermatogonium. Spermatogonium undergo cell growth to form primary spermatocyte. Then primary spermatocyte undergo meiosis 1 to form secondary spermatocyte. Secondary spermatocyte undergo meiosis 2 to form spermatid. Then spermatid undergo cell differentiation to form spermatozoa or sperm. Okay, so this is the spermatogenesis. Okay, then oogenesis is the formation of ovum. And then it start in the ovary, before the fetus is born. So that is where the oogenesis starts. So you can actually see the difference already, right? Okay, then how the process occur? So it also start with primordial germ cell. When I say it also start, means that is a similarity. Then it undergoes primordial germ cell undergo mitosis to form oogonium. Oogonium undergoes cell growth to form primary oocyte. Okay, then the primary oocyte will undergo meiosis 1, but it will occur until prophase 1. But the process will stop at prophase 1 during fetal development. That is during the fetal stage. So the primary oocyte will undergo meiosis, but it will stop at prophase 1. Okay, and the primary oocyte will remain at prophase 1. It will remain domain until puberty. So after puberty, one primary oocyte will continue the meiosis 1. Just now it's only until the prophase 1, right? So it will continue the meiosis 1 to form secondary oocyte and a polar body. So both are haploid. And then after that, the secondary oocyte will undergo second mitotic division, but it will occur until metaphase 2. Okay, so when the fertilization occurs, the secondary oocyte will complete the second mitotic division to form an ovum and another polar body. So then this the haploid, this haploid polar body will also undergo meiosis and produce two haploid polar body. Altogether, actually, there are 4 cells, which is 4 daughter cells, which is produced. Only one is ovum. Okay, the rest are all, there are 3 polar body, which will be eventually degenerated. So this is oogenesis. So now we go back to the diagram. Okay, so you can see that from the diagram, as I say, the first one, the same thing, you can tick like this. Okay, they are all of them start with the germinal epithelial cell. Okay, so if the question use germinal epithelial cell, we just follow lah. Both start with germinal epithelial cell, or in your book is using the primordial germ cell. Okay, then both undergo mitosis, both undergo growth, both undergo meiosis 1 and 2. So can you see that these are all the similarity? And then both produce then the germinal epithelial cell is diploid. Can you see that? It is diploid. Okay, and then both produce daughter cell, which are haploid. So there's a lot of similarity that you can write. Okay, now we go to differences. Now we look at the differences. So the differences is in the spermatogenesis, germinal epithelial cell undergo mitosis to produce what? To produce spermatogonium. But in oogenesis, germinal epithelial cell undergo mitosis to produce oogonium. Can you see that? So this is the difference. So you talk one by one, the difference. Then the spermatogonium undergo growth to produce primary spermatocyte, but oogonium undergo growth to produce primary oocyte. So the basic thing you write. Okay, and then what you can see is in the spermatogenesis, 4 spermatic or 4 sperm are produced. But in the oogenesis, only 1 ovum and 3 polar bodies are produced. Okay, and then how the spermatic become the sperm? That is another process, which is differentiation. Okay, so differentiation. So the spermatogenesis, in spermatogenesis, spermatic undergo differentiation to form sperm. But in oogenesis, in oogenesis, ovum does not undergo differentiation. So you have a lot of points to write, even though you have maybe you are not very understand about the spermatogenesis and oogenesis, but based on the question itself, based on the diagram itself, you can get a lot of information. Don't simply give up. Try to find out the similarity and the differences. Okay. So these are the similarity, as I say. Okay, both occur in reproductive organ. So because one occur in testis, one occur in ovary, right? So now both occur in reproductive organ. This is a similarity because testis and ovary are reproductive organ. Okay, then the germinal epithelial cell are diploid. Then germinal epithelial cell both undergo mitosis. And then both process in both growth, both process in both meiosis. So you have how many? You have already have 5 similarities. If you can write the explanation, of course, it's good. Okay, now the differences. Okay, spermatogenesis occur in testis, oogenesis occur in ovary. And then it occur in male, occur in female. Spermatogenesis involves differentiation. Oogenesis does not involve differentiation. And then 4 sperm are formed, but in oogenesis, only 1 ovum and 3 polar body are formed. And all sperm are active or not degenerated, but in oogenesis, 3 polar body degenerated. Okay, the sperm has a smaller size, the ovum have bigger size. Or sperm have tail, ovum have no tail, also can. Okay, then the tail enable the sperm to swim. Okay, and then the movement of ovum is facilitated by cilia of the oviduct and fallopian tube. And spermatogenesis is a lifelong process, but the oogenesis will stop at menopause. Okay, then spermatogenesis begin after the male puberty, but just now we can see the oogenesis begin at the stage of fetus. Now, the spermatogenesis occur all the time. Okay, then oogenesis, the formation of ovum occur at every menstrual cycle. Spermatogenesis undergo that means the cell undergo complete meiosis, but in oogenesis only until meiosis 2, except the sperm not it will occur until metaphase 2, sorry, and then it will be completed if the sperm fertilize the ovum. Okay, then the germinal epithelial cell divide to produce spermatogonia. This is all in the, this one you can all refer to the diagram. So you can actually get more than 10 marks. Okay, can get maximum 10 marks. Okay, by only refer to the diagram. Okay, now a study on interaction between plants was conducted in a farm by a scientist. In his study, he uses maize plant and paddy bouquet. So maize plant and paddy bouquet. I hope you have roughly have an idea about maize plant, how is it look like, and the paddy, how is it look like, huh? Okay. So now you are given 2 graphs. You are given 2 graphs. So based on the graph already tell you actually. Graph 5.1 show the growth rate of maize plant and paddy bouquet planted in 2 different plots. 2 different plots. And then 5.2 shows the maize plants and paddy bouquet planted in the same plot. So now the plants are given the same amount of nutrient and water. Explain the interaction. So now I want to highlight that if the question say compare or ask you to describe the similarity and differences, you can make a table to do it. But if the question only say explain, no, don't put everything in a table. Okay, so it's better that you put in a paragraph. Okay, you do it in paragraph. In this case, the question doesn't ask you to compare. You can write it separately for diagram 5.1 and diagram 5.2. Okay, so based on date, you identify this is actually about what? This is actually about the interaction between organisms. So you have studied a lot of interaction. So recall back, it is about what? Why you mentioned 2 different plots and then 1 plot? So that must be something which interaction is referring to. Okay, so it must be what? It must be the competition. So in competition, there are 2 types of competition. So what are the 2 types of the competition? So recall back, intra-specific and inter-specific. Intra means what? Intra means same. So it's between the individual of the same species. Inter is between the individual of different species. So now we go back to the question. So if the maize plant and paddy bouquet, they plant at different plot, means there is no competition between maize plant and the paddy bouquet, but they are competition between maize plant itself and the competition between paddy bouquet itself. Okay, don't say that there is no competition. Huh? There is no inter-specific competition, but there is intra-specific competition. So talk about what type of competition, and then it's between the same species, between the maize plant and it's between the paddy plant itself. Okay, they compete for what? They compete for the nutrient, space, and water. So from the graph, what can you see? The maize plant have higher growth rate. Okay, and then both plants, they grow quite well. Okay, when you look, refer to the height, both plants have a quite high in the height. So it means the competition between the plants, the intra-specific competition is low. So because both plants obtain sufficient nutrient, water, or sunlight. Okay, now we go back to the, go to another graph, which is the 5.2. What you can see is maize plant grow very well, and then the paddy bouquet, the height is less than the maize plant. Okay, so this is actually refer to what? This refer to the inter-specific competition because the maize plant and paddy bouquet is planted in the same plot. So that means they are specific, they are the inter-specific competition occur. So the interspecific competition is a competition between 2 or different species. Okay, what do they compete? They compete the same thing, but what you can see is the growth rate of maize plant is higher than the paddy bouquet. Okay, why? Because maize plant is taller, so it can absorb more. It can absorb more sunlight, and then it block the sunlight for the paddy plant, and then it can absorb more nutrient and water. And then we say that maize plant is more adaptive. Don't use stronger. We use more adaptive. So maize plant is more adaptive in the competition. Meaning it is better adapt itself to the environment. Okay, so as a result, the rate of maize plant increase and the rate of maize paddy bouquet decrease. So the growth rate of the paddy bouquet decrease. So this is interspecific competition. So by looking at the graph, you try to recall back what you have studied and then identify what type of interaction is that. Okay. So now question 6. So diagram 6 shows the cross between the homozygote black male mouse and the homozygote white female mouse. Okay, so now look at the question. Black fur is dominant, white fur is recessive. By using the information, draw a genetic diagram, 6 marks. To determine what? To determine the phenotypic percentage of the offspring in the cross. So when you draw the genetic diagram, so bear in mind that the genetic diagram must have the following key, if not given. If the key is not given, you must write the key, and then the genotype of the parent, the meiosis process, the genotype of gamete, the fertilization process, the genotype of the offspring, and phenotype of the offspring, and then you make a conclusion. The conclusion can be a ratio. Okay, so now, for example, to answer the question, so we use a capital letter B and small letter b because that is black. Black is dominant. That is in the question, but you need to put in the key. Okay, so capital letter key B represent the dominant allele for blood fur, and small letter b refer to the recessive allele for white fur. Okay, then from the key, you should be able to identify what is the parental genotype. Okay, because it is homozygote blood fur crossed with a homozygote white fur. Okay, so during meiosis, the two alleles separate, right? And then in the gamete only contain one allele. So during fertilization, the gamete fuse randomly, then it will form the offspring genotype. Okay, then from the offspring genotype, you can identify the offspring phenotype and put down the ratio. Okay, then you can answer the question. So 100% is black. Can you get it? So how to get the mark? So the key can be a mark, and then the genotype 1 mark, the meiosis 1 mark, then the gamete correct is 1 mark, fertilization 1 mark, then the offspring genotype all correct 1 mark, offspring phenotype all correct 1 mark. These are the basic things that you should have in your genetic diagram. Okay, so now we go to section C. As Madam Xia said, section C is open-ended. So if the open-ended or open response question, then you can write more. Okay, you can write more, you can put more idea on it. So the greenhouse is used to control biotic and abiotic factor to increase the yield of crops. So diagram below shows the tomato plants grow in the greenhouse. Explain how greenhouse influences the productivity of tomato plant. So how the greenhouse why the tomato plant is planted in the greenhouse. So how the greenhouse can be used to increase the productivity of the tomato plants. What should you do? You need to go back to the factor that affect the photosynthesis. Okay, so what are the factors? So these are the factors, which is concentration of carbon dioxide, temperature, light intensity. These are the basic thing, right? Okay, so in the concentration of carbon dioxide, what should you supply? You should supply at least 0.03% of carbon dioxide. Okay, to increase the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, and then the temperature should be kept at the optimal level for maximum enzyme activity, and then it can prevent the water loss and or the to reduce the rate of transpiration. Okay, then the light intensity. So light intensity, because light is very important in photosynthesis. So what should you do to increase the photosynthesis? You should have the light that supply all the time. Okay, to make sure that the light energy is supplied all the time to increase the rate of photosynthesis. So when the photosynthesis can be carried out all the time, then it will increase the crop yield. Okay, so then apart from that, of course the plant need fertilizer. So you should supply the nutrient of fertilizer all the time, supply the water, and then need to carry out the pest control. Okay, and protect from the bad weather, the strong wind, and then to maintain the humidity to avoid excessive water loss through transpiration. This is what you can do. So as you can see here, you have about so 8 plus 13 is 21 points. Therefore, you to get 10 marks. So you should have if you write all this, you have plenty of points for you to get the maximum mark. Okay. So then question 2. So you might be given a table. So from the table you answer the question. So just like the vegetable burger and the chicken burger just now. So this table shows the body weight of 2 baby boys, baby P and baby Q, compared to the normal body weight. Okay. So now you need to refer to the normal body weight, and then you need to check the weight of the baby whether it's normal or not. Okay, so you can see when the baby is born, both baby are normal, right? Okay, and then 1 month, they still remain the normal range. Okay, the second month, still at the normal range. Okay, third month, still at the normal range. Okay, fourth month, 8 and 7 is still at the normal range. Okay, fifth month, 8.2 normal range, 7.2 normal range. Okay, sixth month, 9.5 is still normal range. And then the baby Q still normal range. Okay, 7, look at this. Okay, this is still normal range because 10.2, and then baby Q is 6.7. You can see the weight start to drop. The weight start to drop. Okay, now 8 month. At the 8 month, the baby P, the weight is 11.5, but the normal range is 10.5. So that means it is overweight. The weight is higher than the normal range. And then for baby Q is lower than normal range. So what you can see is all this. So all the while that start from the 8 month, the baby P, the body weight is overweight and the baby Q is underweight. Can you see that? So now explain the body weight of baby P and Q as compared to the normal body weight range. So your explanation must based on the food taken. So you look at this and explain the body weight of baby P and Q compared to the normal weight range. Means there are two parts for you to write. The first part is when they are having the normal weight range. And then the second part is when the baby P is overweight and baby Q is underweight. Can you see that? So this is how you need to explain. If you only explain the later part, then you will miss a lot of point for the previous part where both baby P and Q have normal weight range. Okay, and then question 2 is, if you are a nutritionist, what are the dietary advice? Dietary advice means what are the advice in the diet that can be given to the parents of baby Q who is underweight? Then you explain your answer. So this is actually a very take a lot of marks. If you can answer properly, you can get a lot of marks. Okay, so we go back. As I say, we have two parts. One is normal range. One is when the weight is out of normal range. So what happened for the first 6 or 7 months? Okay, so what happened? So the weight of the baby P and Q are in the normal weight range. Okay, and then they are given the same type of food, or the amount of food is the same like mother milk or the formula milk. Okay, and then they are taking the balanced diet. Okay, and then for normal growth rate. But after that, after 7 months or 7 to 8 months, what happened? They are out of normal range. So both baby are given different type of food. So P exceed the normal range and Q is below the normal range. So we talk about P and Q separately. P is overweight. And then why is overweight? Because they are given food with more carbohydrate. Okay, the word more here is very important. Okay, because they are given too much. So just like Madam Sia say, obese. Okay, and then T is lower than the normal weight range, and then T is underweight. Why? Because of the less formation of muscle, bone, and etc. And then they are given unsuitable type of food. Okay, so 15 points for you to get 10 marks. You should be able to get the full marks. Okay, and then when we talk about balanced diet, so you should bear in mind that you should know the function and then the excessive intake and the deficiency. Okay, just like what Madam Sia told us before. So now if you want to give the advice to the parents with baby who is underweight, what can you do? So the word increase or sufficient is very important, or more. So they should give them more carbohydrate for what? More protein, more fat, more vitamin, more mineral. And then give the reason why should be given a more or sufficient the food class. Can you get it? Okay, so now we look at another question is about the leguminous plant, which is planted between the young rubber tree, how the leguminous plant assists the growth of young rubber tree. So when you look at this, you think about leguminous plant. When we study the leguminous plant, we always study about what? Actually, it is related to what? Why there is a leguminous plant, no other plant? So that's mean we are actually talking about the nitrogen cycle. Okay, nitrogen cycle. Still remember the nitrogen fixing bacteria, the rhizobia? Okay, which is living in the nodule of the leguminous plant. So one part of the answer you can explain is about the nitrogen cycle. Okay, so it's about the rhizobia, who is the microorganism that is live in the nodule of the leguminous plant. They help to fix the atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia ion. Okay, so then we talk about the nitrogen cycle. So the plant unable to absorb nitrogen from the atmosphere. So the leguminous plant have nodule that contain nitrogen fixing bacteria or rhizobium. Okay, or the nitrosomonas or nitrobacter. So all these are microorganisms that help to form nitrate in the soil. So this nitrate can be absorbed by the rubber tree to synthesis protein, to synthesis chlorophyll, and etc. to produce new cell to promote the growth of the plant. So this is nitrogen cycle. Apart from that, so the leguminous plant, because it is shorter, so it can help to cover the surface of the soil. So it can block the sunlight to prevent the excessive loss of the soil, a loss of the water from the soil, and then reduce the temperature of the soil. And then besides that, the roots of the leguminous plant can hold the soil particle. It can prevent the soil erosion, and then also it can prevent the leaching of nutrient into the soil. So you can see actually this is a very, very not very common question. It can consider as a K-bar question. So by the time when you look at the question like that, you should relate to what you have studied about the leguminous plant. Then you roughly have an idea on how to write. Correct? Okay, and also it also provide a habitat for the small animal. Then the waste of the small animal or the dead leaf of the leguminous plant can produce humus that will increase the soil fertility. Okay. Okay, so this question is about the eco system. So we study about the environmental sustainability, right? So now this question say many new factories are built nearby the river. So this is a river. There are factories built nearby the river. Explain the bad effect. This question only asks you to explain the bad effect. So no need to explain the good effect. Only the bad effect. Straight go to the point. Explain the bad effect. Okay, study of all sort of pollution, all sort of the environmental problem. Then you think about that. So there are threats to the environment that is you study. So can it related to the climate change? Yes. Deforestation? Yes. Pollution? Yes. Loss of biodiversity? Yes. Global warming? Yes. Eutrophication? Yes. So that's mean you can expect a lot. Okay, don't only focus to pollution. There are a lot of things that you recall back what you have studied in the chapter about environmental sustainability, and then relate the point to answer the question. So it can cause greenhouse effect. Why cause greenhouse effect or global warming is because of the gases, the greenhouse gases that emitted by the factory. Okay, that increase the temperature and then trap heat. So and then there is an effect on the environment, which denature the enzyme and then slow down the photosynthesis and reduce the plant population and less biodiversity. Okay, and then for the acid rain, okay, for the acid rain, so you explain about the formation, the emission of the sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide. And then it dissolves in the rainwater, form acid rain. When the rain fall to the river, fall to the soil and the water in the river become acidic. So it will reduce the soil fertility. It will cause the death of the organism. It will disturb the food chain and then cause the imbalance in the ecosystem. So you see now already 19 points. Okay, then air pollution. Talk about the pollution. So because of the gases released by the factory, okay, it can cause smoke, haze, or air pollution, and then it block the stomata and then reduce the rate of photosynthesis. It can cause thermal pollution or water pollution when the water is discharged from the factory. And then if the water is the hot water is discharged in the factory, then it will cause thermal pollution. If the water discharged in the factory that carry a lot of industry waste, then it can cause water pollution. Okay, we look at the reminder in answering the question in section B and C. So when answering the question, read the question and all information given carefully. Make sure that you know what the question is asking for. Read, know, and then answer the question based on your knowledge and understanding on the relevant topic in biology. Certain questions may test you on more than one topic. So don't be surprised that it can be tested you on more than one topic in one question. So for some questions, you may have to apply what you have learned in biology in order to answer them. So read, know, answer, apply. Okay, then you have to think carefully and relate the question to what you have learned. When writing your answer must be specific and not too general. Your answer cannot be too general, just like Madam Xia said just now. You cannot say affect the health of the farmer. So if you say affect the health of the farmer, means it is too general. Okay, give most suitable answer according to the question. You should use the correct scientific terms in your answer. Do not replace them with other terms that is inappropriate, even if their meaning are the same, like water diffuse. You don't say water move. Okay, so although the meaning is almost the same, but the correct term we use should be diffuse. Okay, and write clearly and neatly, please. Okay, it is not in your best interest to antagonize the reader with lousy penmanship. If the reader cannot comprehend your handwriting, you cannot earn points for that. Means if your handwriting is too lousy and the too messy and the reader or the teacher cannot read, so you might miss some of the point. Okay, so this is the assessment. Okay, this is the assessment. You look at the question for section B. So this is for question 9. Diagram 9.1 shows the location of gland X in human. Okay, look at the diagram, which is gland X. Explain why gland X is a ductless gland and also known as a master gland. So this question actually has two parts. The first part is explain why gland S is a ductless gland. And then the second part is why gland S is known as master gland. Okay, 4 marks. Okay, 9B. Diagram 9.2 shows a boy is chasing by a fierce dog. He is experiencing fight or flight situation. Explain how the nervous system and the endocrine system of the boy coordinate to respond to this situation. So you should highlight the fight or flight situation, right? Okay, so now the question asks you to explain. So what to explain? You need to have two systems to explain. One is nervous system, one is endocrine system. When the boy is chasing by a dog, so what is the response by the nervous system? And then how the endocrine system complement the nervous system until the boy is able to respond, to run away from the dog. 10 marks. Okay, question 9C. Diagram 9.3 shows some example of stimulants and depressants. Misuse of stimulants and depressants for a long term will affect a person's health. Explain the effect. So this question also have two parts that you need to answer. One is the misuse of stimulant. And then another one is the misuse of depressant. So what do you need to write about the misuse of stimulant and misuse of depressant is the effect to a person's health. So explain the effect, 6 marks. So recall back what you have studied in the coordination and response, and try to answer question 9. Another question, the assessment for section C. Diagram below shows an aerial view of mangrove forest along Sarawak River. So this is the mangrove forest along Sarawak River. So discuss why mangrove forests have to be maintained in the ecosystem. 10 marks. Discuss. Discuss means you need to give your opinion, give your idea why the mangrove forests have to be maintained in the ecosystem. Okay, and then question B, the following statements are human activity in an ecosystem. The use of chlorofluorocarbon in air conditioner and refrigerator. Combustion of fossil fuel in the factory. So this is actually 2 human activity. You need to separate, you need to explain separately. Okay, the use of chlorofluorocarbon in the air conditioner and refrigerator and the combustion of fossil fuel in the factory. Discuss how the activity endanger the ecosystem. So talk about the bad effect of using the chlorofluorocarbon and the combustion of fossil fuel. 10 marks. Okay, recall back about the point in the environmental sustainability, and then try to do an outline of this, and then write the essay. So then we have go to the some of the content, or we also go to the type of the question in the paper 2 section B and C. We also look at the how to answer the question. Okay, so what we want to bring out is education is a passport to the future. For tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. So tomorrow is belong to those who prepare for it. So prepare yourself to seek for the SPM exam in March 2022, and we wish all of you all the best for your exam, and may you succeed in everything you do. Okay, with this we end our video with our presentation today. Thank you.